A very warm good evening and a hearty welcome to the respected chief guest, members of LJRF, professors, advocates, supervisors, my dear fellow interns, and every single person present here. The time has come to mark the culmination of this 30 days long, remarkable and memorable internship program. Yes, the Law and Justice Research Foundation, Thiruvananthapuram, gave us 30 days of blissful exposure. And not just that, it gave us an opportunity to connect with law students across various law schools in Kerala, trained us to do effective research, and even gave us a chance to have one-on-one interaction with many eminent resource persons. A wide range of topics were covered these past days, from higher education and future law career options to our well-being and mental health. And I believe the word we can perfectly use to describe this internship is the term holistic. Thank you once again, LJRF, for carefully knitting through the minds and holding us together as a family for the past few days. So today, we have with us the esteemed presence of an eminent resource person as our chief guest, Professor Dr. G. Mohan Gopal. He is former Vice Chancellor of National Law School of India University, NLSIU, Bangalore, and former Director of National Judicial Academy, Bhopal. We heartily welcome you to this session, sir. And sir will be imparting to us his valuable vision while enlightening us upon the topic, the role of young lawyers in social change. So to lay out the structure of this session quickly for you all, after sir's lecture, we will move right into a question-answer session where interns from various teams will pose their queries. And that will mark the end of our session. So without wasting even a minute, let us dive right into the session and understand the role we have as future lawyers in societal reformation. So I formally invite you, sir. Mohan, sir, please.
Thank you very much. And a very good evening to all of you. A very good evening to all of you. And I'm not sure if Mr. Safi Mohan is present.
Hi, sir. Good evening, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
sir. Definitely.
Good evening, Safi.
Good evening.
Welcome,
sir.
Clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have 30 participants here, and then I mentioned to Safi sir that I would like, if possible, to start with an interaction rather than end with an interaction, because this is your last session of an internship. I asked Safi sir what is the program that you've gone through, and it's clear that the program is largely focused on personal on skills and including personal qualities and reflecting on personal qualities. So I thought we could in this session see how the what kind of application those skills and qualities can have in the context of a very important challenge we have, which is social change. So let me begin by asking, are you all able to speak also, or only hear? Anyone able to speak?
Yes, sir, we can.
You can all speak if necessary. No, each of you can speak. Everyone has the access to speak. Yeah, okay. Yes, so I'd like to begin by asking all of you, what is the meaning of the word social change? How do you understand it? This is not an exam. This is not a quest. You don't have to worry about right answer or wrong answer. But as young people, in your own mind, you hear a lot of discussion about social change. What do you understand is social change? Anyone? You had a chance to reflect on many aspects of many issues. So call on that or don't call on that, but let's reflect together on the issue of social change. There's a lot of discussion all the time on social change. What do you think? What do you understand? You personally, what does it mean to you personally? മലയാളത്തിൽ വേണമെങ്കിൽ മലയാളത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കാം, ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ സംസാരിക്കാം. യെസ് സർ, മലയാളത്തിലും ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ സംസാരിക്കാം. ഈ സാമൂഹിക പരിവർത്തനം എന്ന് നമ്മൾ എന്താണത് എന്ന്
Sir, I am expressing my personal view. I don't
of
know
course, I only no, see, please, first thing I want to say is there is no right view, there is no wrong view. Frankly, I'm here to learn from you, not the other way around. I want to understand what your generation, all of you don't speak on behalf of your generation either. You can tell me, as you correctly said, what is your personal understanding of social change? Maybe not one single person in the world agrees with you, doesn't matter.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
My personal opinion is that social change is when we bring the essential needed factors to the depressed or the class who are not getting their rights. So when we bring their rights to them, we are implementing a social change, sir.
Okay. So social change is what is your name?
Sir, my name is Jishnu Raja.
Jishnu, okay. Jishnu, thank you. Good answer, thoughtful answer. Jishnu says that providing did you say rights or resources or rights? What would you say? Providing what?
Both, providing resources and both rights to the people who are in dire need.
To those who are in dire need. That is social change. Okay. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for starting off. Anyone else? And please identify which college you are from. Jishnu, which college are you from?
Sir, I'm from a government law college, Trivandrum, sir. I'm a second year student.
Okay. Thank you, Jishnu.
Thank you.
Waiting for the next answer.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, my name is Rosemary. I'm Women Local Janaklam. I think social change happens when there is an expansion of justice, equality, liberty, and choices of people, of all people. Then we can say there is social change. It is a positive change in the social relations among people of different classes, different strata of society. That's how I understand social change.
Very excellent. Also very good answer. If I understand you, Rosemary, you're saying expansion of justice, liberty, and a positive change, equality, and a positive change in the relationship between different strata of society. Very good. Yes. Is social change. I'm asking very good, very nice. I'm just asking for your personal views. It doesn't matter if not a single other person in the world agrees. Doesn't matter. It's your view. That's all that matters. Yeah. Next. Who else? So we've got Jishnu and Rosemary with two very good responses.
So my name is Neeta. I'm a student from Government Law College, Ernakulam.
Could you kindly repeat your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Neeta. Neeta.
Neeta.
N-E-E-T-H-A.
Neeta from Ernakulam. Yes.
Yes, sir. So I believe it is a change of the outlook of people, or the attitudes people have towards certain aspects. Like if you were to treat certain people in a certain way, just because it's a custom or it's been that way since forever, a change in that towards the better will be significant social change. That's what I believe.
Oh, very good. So, Neetu, what you're saying, excellent answer, input. The change of outlook of people, right? Outlook of people is what you consider a social change. Am I right? Or you'd like to modify that slightly?
Exactly that.
Okay. Excellent. Very good. Yes. Thank you, Neetu. Neeta, right? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Neeta. Next.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, my name is Nivedita and I'm from School of Indian Legal Thought.
Could you repeat your name?
My name is Nivedita.
Nivedita, yes, I got it, yes. You're from Kottayam, School of Indian Legal Thought, Kottayam, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, for me, our society in such a way that like someone has just framed like there's a certain path. നമ്മൾ എല്ലാവരും ഒരു പ്രത്യേക പാത്തിലൂടെ നമ്മൾ ഇങ്ങനെ പോയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. So the social change, it can be negative or positive. And negative or positive means I meant that it can be beneficial to some persons. At the same time, it cannot be to some others. Like Zamindari Act, it was a social change. But akalte Zamindarsina adu ottum benefited arnilla. At the same time, farmers, it was life changing. So social change means it is renaissance, but at the same time it can have both negative and positive effects. What we can do is that just look into the majority of persons who can be benefited, or the നമ്മളുടെ ഒരു കാഴ്ചപ്പാടിലെ ആ ഒരു നീതി എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ നമുക്ക് എടുക്കാം എന്നല്ലാതെ we can't understand what like if it is good or bad. അത് ഏത് രണ്ട് രീതിയിൽ വേണമെങ്കിലും പോകാൻ പറ്റും. This concept of social change.
Okay. Very good, Nivedita. Also very, very thoughtful, very good answer view. So according to you, if I understand you correctly, Nivedita, you are saying social change is a renaissance, right?
Yes.
What is the meaning of renaissance? Can you Google it right now? If you know it, you can just say it. If not, Google it and tell it. Navodhanam. Ade, പക്ഷേ നവ ഉത്ഥാനം. ഉത്ഥാനം means ഒരു ഉയർന്നെഴുന്നേൽപ്പ് അല്ലേ?
Yes, sir.
ഒരു പുതിയ ഉയർന്നെഴുന്നേൽപ്പ് അതല്ലേ? സോഷ്യൽ ചേഞ്ച് എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഒരു പുതിയ നവോത്ഥാനം. അതെ, നവോത്ഥാനം. So you say that it is a new way forward for society, ഇല്ലേ? അപ്പോൾ ഈ നവോത്ഥാനം, നിവേദിത, നവോത്ഥാനം എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഏത് ആസ്പെക്റ്റ് ആണ്? അതായത് ഈ എന്താണ് മാറുന്നത്? ഈ നവോത്ഥാനം ഉണ്ടാകുന്നത് എന്തിലാണ്? നവോത്ഥാനത്തിന്റെ മുമ്പിലും പിമ്പും മനുഷ്യർ തന്നെയാണല്ലോ. അപ്പൊ എന്തിലാണ് മാറ്റം വരുന്നത്? What is the thing that changes? What is it that is undergoing the renaissance?
So, first of all humans are free. But നമ്മൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കി വെച്ചേക്കുന്ന ചില social institutions ഉണ്ട്, like religion, caste, and such things. So we made it. ഒരു കാലത്ത് maybe the need of the time നമ്മൾ അത് ഉണ്ടാക്കിയതാണ്. The most funny thing is that നമ്മൾ മനുഷ്യർ ഫ്രീ ആയി മനുഷ്യർ ഉണ്ടാക്കി വെച്ച പല ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻസിൽ നിന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് നമുക്ക് ഇന്ന് ഈ പറയുന്ന റിനൈസൻസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മോചനം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ റിനൈസൻസ് വേണ്ടി വരുന്നത്. Like for example, this religion or caste നമുക്ക് ഇവിടെ ഇപ്പൊ ഒരുപാട് ആൾക്കാർ അതിന് വേണ്ടി പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഒരുപാട് അവിടെ നിന്ന് ഒരു നവോത്ഥാനം നമുക്ക് നമ്മുടെ കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്ന് തന്നെ കാണാനൊക്കെ സാധിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. സോ even though we are free, even now also, even though we are free, we are in a kind of bondage. ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു രീതിയിലുള്ള ബോണ്ടേജിലൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ ഇപ്പോഴും എവിടേക്കോ കുരുങ്ങി കിടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. സോ ദ റിനൈസൻസ് according to me is kind of being free from all those things. It can be legal or social or anything.
Okay, very nice. Wonderful. So what you're saying is that social change is liberation from human institutions in which we are trapped in some kind of way. And,
yes, sir.
And when we break that, we come out of that bondage. That is social change. So Renaissance is really can we say Renaissance is creating new kinds of what you call human institutions, changing human institutions and creating new human institutions? Would you say that that is Renaissance? That is a Navodhanam? Where we are creating...
Yes, sir. Like we had a joint family that was a kind of institution. Then we shifted to this nuclear family. Now even this nuclear family thing is even breaking, and it's kind of live-in relationships. So these institutions, these all are human-made institutions, and we are just breaking it. Like which time, and the change will come with time, and we will just. The thing is that it's not about good or bad, but change that's inevitable.
Yes. Very nice. So what you're saying is basically, if I understand you correctly, you're saying social change is a change of human institutions.
Yes, sir.
Change of social institutions is social change. Very nice. Thank you, Nivedita. Very, very thoughtful comments. Yes. Anyone else? We've got comments from Jishnu, Rosemary, Neeta, Nivedita. Very thoughtful comments. Jishnu says providing rights and resources to those who are in dire need is social change. Rosemary says expansion of justice, liberty, equality, a positive change in the relationship between different strata of society is social change. Neeta says change of outlook of people. A positive change in the outlook of people is social change. And Nivedita, we just heard, says that social change is a change of human institutions. So very nice, 4 different perspectives. Next, please share your individual view. We've got 26 more people, I think. Now we have got 46 people online. So we've got 42 people who have not said anything. Yes, sir. Yes. Go ahead. I'd like to get 2-3 more comments and then we'll move on. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, this is Aishwarya.
Aishwarya? Hello? Is your name Aishwarya? Did I hear you correctly? Hello? Hello?
Okay, sir. So this is Aishwarya.
Little bit breaking up a little bit. Aishwarya, your name is Aishwarya, right? Is it my connection or your connection? Not able to hear. Safi, enter connection ano? Safi, ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് കേൾക്കാമോ?
Actually, സാറിന്റെ കണക്ഷന്റെ പ്രോബ്ലം അല്ല, ഐശ്വര്യയുടെ പ്രോബ്ലം.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, chat box-ല്
അതെ ചാറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ ഇട്ടാൽ മതി ഐശ്വര്യ.
I think Neeta will explain.
Not able to hear. Not able to hear. കേൾക്കാൻ വയ്യ. Not able to hear. Maybe Aishwarya can type something or switch off your video if your bandwidth is high. Why don't we come back to Aishwarya, and if somebody else can speak now, by then her bandwidth, her connectivity may improve. I can see Aishwarya now. Yes, Aishwarya?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir.
Yeah. Now I can hear you.
Okay,
yes,
sir.
Aishwarya.
Sir, according to me, social change means
which college are you? Which college are you from, Aishwarya?
Sir, Government Law College, Ernakulam.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Sir, according to me, social change means the construction of a society where equal rights and opportunities, and also all voices should be heard irrespective of any privileges, and the system can reflect the people rather than other differences or diversities or anything. So it's all about the system should reflect the people, so that we can expect a positive change. Then only there should be a change.
Yes, so a democratic system, right? In a sense, social change is construction of a society based on equality and freedom, a system that should reflect the people.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I would like to ask another set of people. So we've got five very interesting views, a variety of views. We'll hold that for a minute, and we'll ask others, what do you think is the role of lawyers in bringing about this kind of social change? What should be?
Administration of justice.
Sorry?
Administration of justice, sir.
Administration of justice. Now, how does that connect to this social change?
Sir, social change is a
who is speaking?
Sri Lakshmi, sir.
Sorry? Yeah, Sri Lakshmi. How are you, Sri Lakshmi? Yeah, very nice.
Fine, sir.
Yes, Sri Lakshmi. Yes. Paray Sri Lakshmi. So,
sir,
how is the relationship with social change?
Sir, actually, it is a restructuring of societal construction, and which acts as a voice or impulse of the poor or minority sections for curing their problems and promoting their rights. So, by providing that, we are providing justice to them. So, as a lawyer, it is our duty to provide justice in fair, reasonable, and equitable manner.
Yes, lawyers should provide justice. So that means, can we say then that when lawyers, now നമ്മുടെ സൊസൈറ്റി ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ സ്ഥിതിയിലുള്ള സൊസൈറ്റിയിൽ സോഷ്യൽ ചേഞ്ചിൻ്റെ ആവശ്യമുണ്ടോ? അതോ ഈ സൊസൈറ്റി ഇപ്പോൾ ഇരിക്കുന്ന നമ്മുടെ സൊസൈറ്റിയിൽ നിയമം പാലിച്ച് ജസ്റ്റിസ് അഡ്മിനിസ്റ്റർ ചെയ്ത് ലോയേഴ്സ് അഡ്മിനിസ്റ്റർ ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ has social change happened? ഇപ്പോഴുള്ള നിയമങ്ങളും ഇപ്പോഴുള്ള സൊസൈറ്റിയും ഇന്ന് 2021 സൊസൈറ്റിയും ലോസും ഒക്കെ നമ്മൾ ഫെയർ ആൻഡ് ഇക്വിറ്റബിൾ ആയിട്ട് ഇഫ് വി അഡ്മിനിസ്റ്റർ ദ ലോസ്, can we say that administration is that is social change or will bring about social change? And that is the role of lawyers.
Social change.
And though
it will bring about social change. Completely ഒരു ജസ്റ്റിസ് പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്തെന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. അവിടെ എങ്കിൽ പോലെ നിൽക്കുന്ന കുറച്ച് പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാവും. അപ്പോൾ അവിടെ മറ്റ് രീതിയിലുള്ള ഒരു ചേഞ്ച് വരേണ്ടതുണ്ട്.
അതെ. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ബ്രിട്ടീഷുകാർ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഈ ബ്രിട്ടീഷുകാരുടെ നിയമങ്ങൾ, ബ്രിട്ടീഷ് ഭരണത്തിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന നിയമങ്ങൾ അതിനെ ഫെയർ ആൻഡ് ഇക്വിറ്റബിൾ ആയിട്ട് അഡ്മിനിസ്റ്റർ ചെയ്താൽ അത് സോഷ്യൽ ജസ്റ്റിസ് ആണോ? സോഷ്യൽ ജസ്റ്റിസ് ഉണ്ടാകുമായിരുന്നോ? അത് മാത്രം ആണോ ലോയേഴ്സിൻ്റെ ഡ്യൂട്ടി? ആ സമയത്ത് എന്തായിരുന്നു ലോയേഴ്സിൻ്റെ ഡ്യൂട്ടി ബിഫോർ ഇൻഡിപെൻഡൻസ്? ഹലോ, ഞാൻ ഡിസ്കണക്റ്റഡ് ആയോ? ഓക്കെ. ഓ, ശ്രീലക്ഷ്മി, ഞാൻ ചോദിച്ചത് ക്ലിയർ ആയോ? അതായത് ഈ റോൾ ഓഫ് ലോയേഴ്സ് ഇൻ സോഷ്യൽ ചേഞ്ച്, ഇഫ് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഓൺലി ടു administer justice fairly and equitably, and let us say during British time or even during Maharaja's time, Maharaja of Travancore ഉള്ളായിരുന്ന സമയത്ത് അന്ന് കോടതിയുണ്ട്, ജഡ്ജിമാരുണ്ട്, പലരും സത്യസന്ധരായി അവരുടെ അന്നത്തെ നീതിയുടെ നിയമങ്ങളുടെ അനുസരിച്ച് അവർ നിയമങ്ങൾ ഇംപ്ലിമെൻ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. അതാണോ ലോയേഴ്സ്? if that is the role of lawyers, were they discharging that role of social change അന്നത്തെ സമയത്ത്?
സർ, അതിൽ അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേഷൻ ഓഫ് ജസ്റ്റിസ് മാത്രം അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്താൽ പോലും അത് ഫുള്ളി പ്രൊവൈഡഡ് ആവത്തില്ല. നമ്മളൊരു ആസ് എ ലോയർ എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ ഒരു ഗൈഡൻസ്, ഒരു പ്രോപ്പർ അഡ്വൈസും കൂടെ ആ സമയത്ത് നമുക്ക് കൊടുക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുമ്പോഴാണ് പ്രോപ്പർ വേയിൽ അത് പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കുന്നത്.
ഈ മഹാത്മാഗാന്ധിയെ സെഡിഷൻ ട്രയൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നല്ലോ 1922 there was a sedition trial of Mahatma Gandhi in Ahmedabad ഒരു കോടതിയിൽ. ഇപ്പോഴും അവിടെ ഓൾഡ് സർക്യൂട്ട് ഹൗസിൽ ആ കോർട്ട് റൂം ഉണ്ട്. അവിടെയാണ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ സെഡിഷൻ ട്രയലിന് അദ്ദേഹത്തിനെ ട്രൈ ചെയ്തത്. ബിക്കോസ് അദ്ദേഹം വളരെ സ്ട്രോങ് ആയിട്ട് ഒരു പ്രസംഗം. അപ്പോൾ ഹി വാസ് എ ലോയർ അല്ലേ? അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ഐ ജസ്റ്റ് read out to you small part of that. Lost.
Sir, we can see you, we cannot hear you. Hello, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't know what happened. We got completely knocked out. Anyway, Srilakshmi, I'm going to read you a few lines from Gandhi's Mahatma Gandhi's sedition speech. ഞാൻ quotation markana, quotationil parayana Gandhijiyude vaakkukalana. It is very true, and I have no desire whatever to conceal from this court, whatsoever to conceal from this court, the fact that to preach disaffection towards the existing system of government has become a passion with me, almost a passion with me. The learned Advocate General is right when he says that my preaching of disaffection commenced many years ago. In fact, it will be my painful duty to admit before this court that it commenced much earlier than the period stated by the Advocate General. The Advocate General is quite right when he says that as a man of responsibility, a man having received a fair share of education, having had a fair share of experience of this world, I should have known the consequences of every one of my acts. I knew I was playing with fire. I ran the risk, and if I was set free, I would still do the same. I want, then he says, to the court, I plead guilty to the charge of promoting disaffection towards a government established by law in India. Cottage industry, so vital for India's existence, has been ruined by incredibly heartless and inhuman processes. Little do town dwellers know how the semi-starved masses of India are slowly sinking to lifelessness. Little do they know that their miserable comfort represents the brokerage they get for the work they do for the foreign exploiter, that the profits and brokerage are sucked from the masses. Little do they realize that the government established by law in India is carried out for the exploitation of the masses. No sophistry, no jugglery can explain the evidence that the skeletons in many villages present to the naked eye. I have no doubt whatsoever that the town dwellers of India will have to answer if there is a God above for this crime against humanity, which is perhaps unequaled in history. The law itself in this country has been used to serve the exploiter. My experience of political cases in India leads me to the conclusion that in 9 out of every 10 cases, the condemned men were totally innocent. Their crime is the love of their country. In 99 cases out of 100, justice has been denied to the people of India. This is not an exaggerated picture. It is the experience of almost every Indian who has had anything to do with such cases. Then he says, Section 124A, under which I am happily charged, is the prince among the political sections of the Indian Penal Code, designed to suppress the liberty of the citizen. Affection cannot be manufactured or regulated by the law. If one has no affection for a person or system, one should be free to give the fullest expression to his disaffection, so long as he does not contemplate, promise, or promote or incite to violence. But the section under which I am charged is one under which mere promotion of disaffection is a crime. I have studied some of the cases tried under it, and I know that some of the most loved of India's patriots have been convicted under it. I consider it a privilege, therefore, to be charged under that section. So here is a father of the nation, a lawyer for as long as he was a politician, telling the court, as a person who understands courts and law, that it is my duty to have no affection for the government of the country at that time. It is my duty to speak out on behalf of the suffering of people because the system is working against the people. Is that the role of a lawyer? Gandhi was a lawyer for as long as he was a politician. He was a very responsible, very ethical lawyer. He took his responsibilities as a lawyer extremely seriously. He says in this speech that initially he was very devoted to the British government because colonial government, because he believed in what they were doing. I was asking Sri Lakshmi, is it the duty of lawyers to simply administer justice as the law is, as it stood? We have read Professor Sanal Mohan pointing out that up until the 19th century, in Kerala, slaves, lower people from especially SC, ST communities and some other communities, including Yerava community, and even some poor people from some forward communities were kidnapped and taken away from their communities. But that's very small in number. But in terms of the large number of people, it is basically scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and a lot of Yerava people who were sold as slaves under the law. So is it the duty of lawyers to simply administer justice and develop all these skills that you've been taught for 30 days to do that?
Sir, in my opinion, Gandhi was a good lawyer because he know the position of people they had in an independent nation. Also, they knew how to talk their way through to the English. And also, they knew their weaknesses and strengths and could successfully devise a way to play the weaknesses of the British to their advantage. So, according to my viewpoint, Gandhiji, what told by Gandhiji was very right.
No, but I'm not discussing Gandhiji. From Gandhiji, who was a member of perhaps the most famous member of the Indian legal fraternity in the world, Mahatma Gandhi. So what can we learn from him about the role of lawyers in relation to social change? We all know he was fighting for some kind of change, whether we call it social change, political change. He was complaining about the exploitation of the people of this country. Today, if a lawyer makes a speech like Gandhi is making today, is it because we have now our own government, our own elected government, right? Not a colonial government. So is it simply a matter of clever strategy for lawyer to use the British the weaknesses of the British against him, in which case he is only a chatur politician. He is not an ethical lawyer as he claims to be, right? So what is the role of the lawyer that Gandhi is implying that? Let me also ask you, any of you, in the sedition trial speech, Gandhi tells the Judge Bromfeld, either you give me the highest punishment. If you believe that the law you're about to implement is good for the people of this country, give me the highest punishment. If not, Gandhi says, resign your job. Resign your job. Why does Gandhi tell him to resign his job? Why doesn't he say, if you believe that the law you are about to administer is good for the people of this country, give me the highest punishment? If you believe that the Sedition Act, which is still on our books, if you believe that this law is not good for the people of this country, he could have said, then acquit me. But he said, resign your job. So what can we understand from this dialogue of Gandhiji about the role of lawyers? Why did he tell the judge, resign your job, not acquit me, or give me the highest punishment? If you believe that the law you're about to administer is good for the people of this country, give me the highest punishment. If not, resign your job. There is something in that sense, in that thought, which tells us what the real role of a lawyer is. What is that?
Challenging the law, which is oppressive.
That's one way of looking at it. But let's think even in more simple terms. What was Gandhiji saying?
Voice of democracy.
The role of a lawyer is to ensure justice to the needy people, and also prevent discrimination against the people
and also protect the freedom and rights of the individuals.
That is correct. I think that is correct. But you could say in a very simple way. You could say in a very simple way that Gandhi is arguing that a lawyer or a judge is only acting as a lawyer or a judge if what you're doing is for the good of the people of the country. So let me give you an example. A man takes a knife and cuts the body of another man. If he is a doctor who is cutting that man's body in order to do urgent surgery, much needed surgery for him to save his life, we would say he's a doctor. But if the same man, the same doctor, the same person who's a doctor wearing a white coat and all the mask and everything, the same man takes that knife and cuts the body of the same person to kill him, not to save his life, but to kill him, to end his life, would we call him a doctor?
No, sir.
We will call him what would we call him?
Murderer.
A murderer. Exactly right. A murderer. So same man takes a knife, cuts the body of a man to kill him, we call him a murderer. Only if he cuts the body of a man to save his life and to cure him of illness will we call him a doctor. Which means what? If you act against the interests of a person, you cannot be a doctor. There is something in that function where a doctor, if he acts carelessly, negligently, without having the commitment and the motive to cure and to save life, he's not acting as a doctor. He's acting as something else, but not a doctor. Gandhi is saying that to the judge. He's saying, look, you're a judge. You can only act in the interests of the people of the country. I personally believe that in 1922, Gandhi redefined the role of a judge. I tell many judges that. Redefine the role of a judge, redefine the role of a lawyer, and said a judge and a lawyer can only claim to be a judge and a lawyer if you are acting in the interests of the people of the country, the common people of the country, the poorest people of the country. Otherwise, you cannot say you're a lawyer. You can be a doctor who will take money and say, okay, you want to kill someone, you bring him to me and you give me so much money and I will, I will do a surgery on him with the intention of killing him. You won't say that he was acting as a doctor. You'll say he was acting as a criminal. Likewise, Gandhi is saying that the role of a lawyer is to act in the best interests of the people of this country. Sometimes it will require ensuring that the law is interpreted in a way that is accepted and traditional. Sometimes it may involve a way of finding new ways of understanding and interpreting the law that will advance the interests of the people. So Gandhi, that's why he told him, resign your job, because he says, look, if you do not believe that this sedition law is in the best interest of the people of this country, punishing me for my only crime of loving my country. Gandhi says, that is my only crime. I love my country. When something wrong is going on, I speak out against it. My duty, my love for my country does not mean that I must support the rulers of the country. I love the country, not its rulers. Rulers may come and go, but the country for me is forever. And I may or may not agree with the rulers of the country about what is good for my country, but I have as much right as a ruler to decide what is good for my country. And so long as I do not engage in, promote, or incite violence, it is only when we all act in the interest of our country will from that emerge what is really the best interest of the country. So you have provided 5 perspectives on what is good for the country. So Jishnu said, what is good for the country is providing rights and resources to those who are in dire need. That is what is good for the country. Rosemary said that expanding justice, liberty, and equality in the relationship between different strates of society, that is good for this country. Jishnu is right, Rosemary is right. Neeta said that you must change the outlook of people and bring about a positive change in that outlook. Because Neeta's point is that without a positive outlook towards each other, the society will not be in the right position. So what is good for the country, according to Neeta, is to bring about a change of outlook of people towards a positive outlook. And Nivedita said that social change involves that what is good for the people of the country is to liberate them from the human institutions that are keeping them in bondage. Very powerful idea of Nivedita. That we are kept in bondage, intentionally or unintentionally. One way or another, we are kept in bondage. So she says, what is good for the country is to change those institutions that are keeping us in bondage and liberate the people from those institutions. And Aishwarya said, construction of a society based on equality and freedom, reflecting the people. The system should reflect the people. It should be, this was my comment, not her words, a democratic system is what is good for the people of this country. And so you all have your understanding, each of you, on what is good for this country. And you're all right. You're all correct. But the role of the lawyer is to advance that cause, as Gandhi did. What did Gandhi say in his sedition trial speech? He said, please understand that the people of this country are being destroyed. The people are suffering. And I am drawing attention of the rulers of this people to the suffering of the people. He's written a wonderful little piece after he came back from South Africa. The piece was written in 1907 about his traveling third class. And it's a moving piece about the terrible conditions of the people who were forced to travel third class because that is their only option to travel. And one of the recommendations he makes is, at the end of that, the top people of this country, the Governor General, the top people of the country should travel third class, as he did. Then they will realize what people are suffering. So the role of the lawyer, according to Gandhi, is to bring about social change by fighting for what is good for the country, because that's what, if you don't do what is good for the common people of the country, then you are not a lawyer, really. I used to tell some students, if you want to make money, go be a businessman. Why do you want to become a lawyer? Lawyers at the best, richest lawyers are those who are employed by business people. So why don't you be the employer and make the big money? The lawyer is not there to make money. The lawyer, of course, we all have to we all have to be financially self-sufficient to meet our needs. But that we can always decide what our needs are. But ultimately, lawyers' responsibility is to bring about to advance the good of the people of the country. That's my first point. The second point is, what is the skill you need to do this? So I'm only making 2 points today. First point is to tell you, you've done all this orientation program. If you don't apply it for the good of the common people of this country, the poorest people of this country, then you're not being a lawyer. You're not being a lawyer. You're being something else. You can't be sort of technocratic about this. And please read the sedition trial speech of Gandhiji on the net. And please read the judgment of Judge Bromfeld also. But the main thing is to read the sedition trial speech of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, second point, last point I want to discuss, because it's now 7 o'clock and we have another, about an hour, a little bit less than an hour left, is what kind of skills and what kind of attitudes do you need to be a person who works for the common good? Can I have some answers on that? Now, do you get my point? You may or may not agree with me, but do you get my point about what is the role of lawyers? It is to uphold the good of the people of the country. And social change, I'll come to that a little bit later. You have defined what is social change. Basically, change to bring about a better society. And that is reflected in Article 39 of our Constitution, which, as you know, not 39, sorry, 38 of our Constitution, which says, the state 38(1), which says, the state shall strive to promote the welfare of the people. The state shall strive to promote the welfare of the people. Just that is a very profound sentence, right? The state has no business under any conditions, any circumstances. Everything that the state does, according to 38(1), has to be to promote the welfare of the people. How should the state promote the welfare of the people? By securing and protecting as effectively as it may a social order, not an economic order, not a political order, a social order in which justice, social, economic, and political shall inform all institutions of national life. This is the purpose of the Republic. So what we mean by social change is to establish a social order in which justice, social, economic, and political shall inform all institutions of national life. All institutions of national life. Not organizations, but institutions of national life. This is a codification of what Gandhiji says. He says, unless you believe that the law is good for the people of the country, you should refuse to implement it. In colonial times, we can say that the colonial administration or the Maharaja's administration always had laws which were in the interest of the rulers, but not in the interest of the people. In a democracy, all laws made by the people in democratic form should be in the interest of the people. If not, those laws should be challenged in court, should be challenged changed and amended in the legislature. And we have the means to ensure that they must be in the interest of the welfare of the people. And they must work to create a new social order in which justice, social, economic, and political shall inform all institutions of national life. So we must understand as lawyers social change as a process of bringing about the new social order envisaged in Article 38(1) of the Constitution, which, as I said, is a codification of what Gandhi said, that ultimately the state itself and all law and all lawyers must only promote the welfare of the people. Now the question is, if that is the role of lawyers in social change, what are the skills you need to do this? Can I have some views on that? Hello?
Diligent ആയിരിക്കണം.
കേൾക്കാമോ?
കേൾക്കാം സർ.
ഓ ഓക്കെ. ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് വളരെ സിമ്പിൾ പോയിന്റ്സ് ആണ്. അപ്പൊ ചിലപ്പോൾ അത് വളരെ ബേസിക് പോയിന്റ്സ് ആണ്. പക്ഷേ ഈ ദ ഗ്രേറ്റസ്റ്റ് ട്രൂത്ത്സ് ആർ ദ സിംപ്ലസ്റ്റ്. അവിടെ നിന്നാണ് നമ്മൾ തുടങ്ങേണ്ടത്. നമ്മുടെ ചിന്ത തുടങ്ങേണ്ടത് അതാണ്. ഈ ഗാന്ധി പറഞ്ഞ ആ സങ്കല്പം തന്നെയാണ് ഈ ആർട്ടിക്കിൾ 38(1) ഉള്ളത്. No one can disagree with that. The Indian state, the state created by our democratic, socialist, secular republic shall strive only strive, nothing else, to promote the welfare of the people by creating a new social order. So what can we, now we know that our job is not simply to administer justice in accordance with whatever rules we have in front of us, but to interpret and apply those rules to promote the welfare of the people. ഞാൻ ഈ ജുഡീഷ്യൽ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷണൽ ജഡ്ജസിനോട് സംസാരിക്കുമ്പോൾ എപ്പോഴും പറയും, every decision you make, there must be something good in it, something constructive in it, that will promote the welfare of the people. If not, that is injustice. You must be able, if I show you any judgment of yours, you must point out to me how that judgment promotes the welfare of the people. If not, you're in violation of Article 38(1). Simple, very simple concept. You find all the legal arguments, you find everything, but you cannot do something that is destructive of the welfare of the people. That's unconstitutional. A lawyer cannot advance an argument that is destructive of the welfare of the people. A judge cannot advance an argument that is destructive of the welfare of the people. So now we come to the skill. What is the skill required to maintain the standard? I'm waiting for any inputs.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Jishnu again, sir.
Yes, Jishnu.
Sir, I think the skill a lawyer need is we will be able to understand the proper definition of what it is right and what it is wrong. So we can properly channel an injustice to the authorities so that we
That's
can
very good. Yeah.
So that we can give the proper rights to the people in need.
Yes. No, I think, Jishnu, that's really a wonderful point. Okay. Because what you're saying is the first skill we need is how do we distinguish what is good for the people and what is not good for the people? How do we distinguish what is in the welfare of the people? Then only we can implement that, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So one skill that you have identified is how to distinguish between what is good for the people, what is the welfare of the people, and what is bad for the people, what is against the welfare of the people. That is the purpose of legal education, actually. That is the purpose of legal education in a democracy. To help someone who is a lawyer to be able to distinguish between what is good for the welfare of the people and what is not good for the welfare of the people. So what is the framework, Jishnu or someone else, for distinguishing between the welfare of the, what is the welfare of the people and what is not. Jishnu, again, how do you think about it? How do you distinguish between what is good for the people and what is not good for the people?
So personally, I think if a particular section of the people gets what the government implementing, what can I say? If a particular section of the people only gets their rights, and a large community of people doesn't get their right, then it is an injustice, sir. So I categorize on that aspect.
So that is broadly speaking utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number.
Yes, sir.
But what about those who suffer then? So what if you want to kill 3 people to create a big dam so that we'll all get electricity? But you know for a fact, suppose a proposal is brought to you, Jishnu, you are the Chief Minister of Kerala, and the file says, we want to build a dam to increase power supply to Kerala, but we know that in building this dam, for sure, we know 10 people are going to be killed. Whatever we do, 10 people will die.
So my point of view is different.
Yes.
I'm not saying as a chief minister or something, but I am saying as a person, I value the life of 10 people rather than building a dam, sir.
Okay. So then you have rejected your own criterion. You've rejected your own criterion. You have said that it is your principle now is not utilitarianism. It is non-violence, ahimsa. Ahimsa paramo dharma, as the Jains say. That look, you cannot harm anyone. No matter what benefit comes, you cannot harm anyone.
Sir, I have explained my view on the aspect that it on the basis of benefits. I'm not saying that I am going to kill a certain person or a people, sir. I'm just saying that I look forward to work for the benefit of the people, not harming them.
But you see, very often, when there is only benefit flowing through to people, there is no problem. There is no problem. It's what you call a win-win situation, right? But in life, that is not the problem. Is that the benefit? See, human beings make money from other human beings, not from nature, only by extracting some value from other human beings, either fairly or unfairly, right? That's how they build their own wealth. So the real question is, when there are some people are benefited, some people are harmed, then how do you distinguish between what is good and what is bad? See, every action that harms people is advanced as a level of policy because it benefits somebody. It may be one individual, it may be one Maharaja or one British Maharaja, or it may be a family, or it may be someone, but somebody is benefiting. That's why something is happening. Others are losing. So how do you distinguish between the welfare, what is in the welfare of the people or the interests of the people, and what kind of skill do you need as a lawyer? What kind of qualities do you need as a lawyer? What kind of skill do you need as a lawyer? In these 30 days of internships, what kind of skills, Rosemary, yes, please tell me. What skills, from what you learned, what is relevant to answer this question? Yes, please, Rosemary. Rosemary, yes.
Yes. So I think as a lawyer or a judge, as a lawyer or a judge, whatever you do or decide in that capacity, if that aligns with principles of natural justice and our constitutional values, then it is going to promote welfare of the people.
Okay.
So that is my viewpoint.
So that's a very, also Vishnu's was also a very helpful answer, because he he identified the core skill is how to distinguish between what is in the welfare of the people and what is not. And Rosemary has provided a framework for that. It says, what is the principles of natural, that if what you must decide that on the basis of constitutional values. Now, why that see, we have a constitution now. We are a democracy. It is a document that is accepted, generally accepted in our country, and it has a set of values. So Rosemary says, okay, let us use that as a benchmark. In other words, what Rosemary is telling us is, see, when both Rosemary and Jishnu have given us two benchmarks, Manadandangal. So Jishnu in the Manadandam benefit or harm to people. Rosemary the Manadandam constitutional values. But namakku venda knowledge, the skill is to distinguish. The knowledge we need as lawyers to bring about social change is to have an understanding of the Manadandam, the standard against which we will measure what is in the welfare of the people and what is not in the welfare of the people. The difference between Jishnu's approach and Rosemary's approach is that Jishnu's approach is picking up a academically accepted standard, like utilitarianism, the greatest good to the greatest number, which is accepted by a lot of people, which is a very widely used standard to decide what is in the welfare of the people. But Rosemary is coming up with a not only a Manadandam, but also she's paying attention to the legality of the source of that Manadandam. That is a skill that we must have as lawyers. The skill to pick up what has legitimacy. So the difference between Rosemary's approach and Jishnu's approach is that Rosemary is giving importance to legitimacy. She's saying, okay, if I pick up constitutional values, the Constitution is a document that has legitimacy. And therefore, I will be able my Manadandam will have legitimacy. So that now brings a special skill of the lawyer. So I'm basically asking you, what is the unique skill of a lawyer? Basically, we are coming to that. What are we specialists in? What is the meaning of legitimacy? What is the meaning of legitimacy? Maybe some of you can Google it and tell me what is the meaning of legitimacy.
Conformity.
The right and the acceptance of an authority, usually a governing law or everything.
Conformity.
So, if you look at the dictionary, where are the dictionary നോക്കിയിട്ട് വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും കാണുന്നുണ്ടോ? Legitimacy എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ എന്താണ്?
Validity.
അതെ, പക്ഷെ എന്താ legitimacy ഒരു ക്വാളിറ്റിയാണ് അല്ലേ? ഒരു ക്വാളിറ്റിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ മുമ്പും പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട് see, there is an old I'm not going to repeat the Latin. There is an old Latin saying that law is a science of what is good and just. Sorry, law is the art, not the science. Law is the art of what is good and just. അപ്പം നമുക്ക് ഒരു മാനദണ്ഡം മാത്രം പോരാ, ആ മാനദണ്ഡത്തിനെ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ ഒരു സെറ്റ് ഓഫ് വാല്യൂസ് ഉണ്ട്. അതാണ് ലെജിറ്റിമസി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഇറ്റ് ക്യാൻ ബി ദാറ്റ് ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ബേസ്ഡ് ഓൺ ലോ, പക്ഷെ ലോ ഇറ്റ് സെൽഫ് നീഡ്സ് ലെജിറ്റിമസി. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വി ക്യാൻ സിംപ്ലി സേ ലീഗാലിറ്റി. വാട്ട് ഇസ് ദ ഡിഫറൻസ് ബിറ്റ്വീൻ ലീഗാലിറ്റി ആൻഡ് ലെജിറ്റിമസി അല്ലേ? ലെജിറ്റിമസി എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് കൺഫോമിങ് ടു സർട്ടൻ വാല്യൂസ്, സർട്ടൻ നോർമറ്റീവ് വാല്യൂസ് സച്ച് ആസ് ഫെയർ, ഓണസ്റ്റ്, truthful. It is legitimate to say this എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അതിൽ ചില ക്വാളിറ്റീസ് ഉണ്ട്, certain values ഉണ്ട്. Reasonableness, acceptability amongst people. See, ultimately what law needs is not only legality but legitimacy. Legality is simply conformity with some kind of rules of authority to show that something is allowed by the law. Legality means something is authorized by the law. So you can say killing someone in the gas chamber because he's a Jew was claimed to have legality. That was a defense of a lot of Nazi officials. Their defense was legality. We were ordered to do it. That was a law. The law was passed by parliament. It was passed by majority. And therefore there is legality. But many things which have legality lack legitimacy and justness. Justness can be more subjective. It can vary from, it is a standard of human conduct. It can vary from one person to the other. But legitimacy is about reasonableness, acceptability, honesty, truthfulness, fairness. So lawyers are, in my view, if law is the art of what is good and just, of the art of what is good and just, then legitimacy comes from what is good and just. And so our job is difference between lawyers and legislators or police officers or IAS officers is they can make law, they can read the law and apply the law. But we are experts between distinguishing between situations in which law is applied which are good and just, which advance values which are values of goodness and justness, of fairness, of honesty, of truthfulness, of reasonableness, versus laws that are made or applied which are bad laws, which are not in the interest of the welfare of the people. So we are guardians of 38(1). Lawyers are guardians of 38(1). The first phrase of 38(1). The state shall promote the welfare of the people. We have to safeguard that the state shall not harm the welfare of the people means all the people. No one should be harmed. When we say no one should be harmed, we are not talking about the people who have the power to protect themselves. We are talking of the people from whom the power to protect, the capacity to protect themselves has been taken away by society. Why could not Ipparaya, Pulaya, Irava, who was being sold as human beings in Tirunakkara Maidanam in Kottayam, to be sold and transported to Europe, why did they not protect their rights and say this is not good, don't do this to us, we are human beings, we are your fellow Malayalis? Simply because of the caste into which we were born, you have no right to sell us and separate us from our land and our family and make us slaves. Not because they did not think that, not because they knew what was going on, they thought what was going on was good, but because that power to speak out against wrong had been taken away from them. If they had spoken out, they would have been tortured to death immediately. Because that society lacked lawyers. That was a society that did not have Article 38(1). There were lawyers who were party to this slave trade in Kerala. Judges who were party to the slave trade stood by and watched it happen. Highly educated intellectuals in the state who not only knew what was going on but benefited from what was going on. But the only thing that is different from that day and today is Article 38(1), which says the state shall promote the welfare of the people, of the ordinary people, the powerless people. The others have the capacity to protect their own welfare, to safeguard their own welfare. Not that they should be, they'd have the capacity, the power to invoke many remedies to protect themselves. But we have to ensure that the state shall not act, powerful people shall not act against the welfare of the common people. So the skill we want is to distinguish between the welfare of the people and what is not in the welfare of the people. And the particular skill that lawyers have is the skill of defining the content of what is legitimate, not just what is legal, but what is legitimate and what is not legitimate. That an accountant cannot do, a police officer cannot do. They can do it, but that's not their job. That is why Gandhi was saying in his sedition trial speech, he was constantly telling the judge, let us do what is in the interest of the common people of this country. You are charging me for sedition because I spoke out on behalf of the common people of this country. If you think that is good for the people of this country, for the common people of this country, on whose behalf I am speaking, it is good for you to put me in jail and make sure that I don't speak out on behalf of the common people of this country, then by all means give me the highest sentence. If not, refuse to do it. Because you claim to be a lawyer and a judge. Resign your job. Because suddenly we now have a group of people whose job is not just legality. Their job is legitimacy. To protect legitimacy. So our skill is to be able to attack what is bad on grounds of legitimacy, constitutional legitimacy. That's where Rosemary's point of constitutional values come in. Constitutional values gives us a framework of legitimacy. What are constitutional values? Can I get some inputs? What are the constitutional values we are talking about? Anyone?
Sir, as laid down in our preamble, to ensure justice, liberty, equality, and freedom to all. That is the benchmark. Yeah.
Yes. Who is speaking? Who is speaking
this
now?
This is Rosemary again.
Rosemary. Yes, thank you, Rosemary. That's correct. So I work a lot on the idea of justice, and in a very simple way, my definition of justice is that it is a standard of human conduct, right? And when we say there is justice, when that human behavior reflects that standard of human conduct, that's when what we say we call as justice. It's a standard of human conduct, and liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity are all standards of how we treat each other. As Nivedita said very, very correctly, I agree with her, that human institutions are the ones that take away our freedom. And she said, we are born free. We are born in liberty. But human institutions tell us, you are a woman, you cannot do this. You're born into this religion, this caste, this class, so you cannot do this. These are human ideas. These human institutions have taken away so when we talk about liberty, we are talking about the way people treat each other. Equality is about the way we treat each other. Fraternity is about the way we treat each other. Dignity is about the way we treat each other. So the framework of the welfare of the people, the framework of legitimacy, and the content of justice comes from these values which are set out in the preamble to the preamble to the Constitution. We have these four central values, these four core values: liberty, equality, fraternity, and dignity, about how we treat each other. When those four values are respected, that standard of conduct is followed, we have what we call justice, the right way in which we treat each other. The human condition in which people treat each other according to these values is what we mean as justice. And we have systems: socialism, secularism, democracy, republicanism, as methods of systems that will ensure that these standards are maintained. See, what we have in society, what we find is run the extremes on the one is that the standard of what is good must give a lot of liberty to people, individuals, and everyone must be treated with equality, fraternity, and dignity. And within that framework, people should be free to make their own choices. They should not be controlled by others, except to stop them from taking away the freedom of others. We can say that is an approach which says that the welfare of the people, what is good for the people, is liberty. Adinte framework aanu preamble ullathu. The assumption of the preamble is what is good for the people, what is the welfare of the people, is liberty. Ultimately, freedom. എല്ലാവർക്കും freedom വേണമെങ്കിൽ equality വേണം, fraternity വേണം, dignity വേണം, ultimately your freedom. So we could say that the core idea of legitimacy, the core idea of the welfare of the people in the Indian Constitution lies in individual liberty. The problem is, in the short term, neither the left nor the right fully accepts that. For the left, equality is very important, and people must be controlled to ensure equality. And for the right, what is important is tradition. what the elders decide. Patriarchy means, pater means father, archy means rule. The rule of the father is patriarchy. Oligarchy, the rule of a small group of people, oligarchy. So the traditions and norms set out by a small group of people, the right wing says, were superior, wise, age, rich, powerful rulers. That is the test of the welfare of the people. Obedience to traditions, obedience, not liberty, obedience to tradition, to values imposed on us, is the welfare of the people. So we must promote obedience. And there are various intermediate points between individual liberty and obedience to the common good. And it's a matter of ideology where we come out. But the Constitution of India is very clear. The Constitution of India does not believe that the welfare of the people is to be advanced by promoting obedience. It means that you must promote liberty. So for us, ultimately, all legitimacy, all justice has to be tested against a touchstone of, are we actually advancing? So we can reread 38. We can reread 38 and say, the state shall strive to promote the liberty of the people by securing and protecting as effectively as it may a social order in which justice, social, economic, and political shall inform all institutions of national life. So first I'm saying that the skill we need is to distinguish between what is in the interest of the welfare of the people and what is not. So we have to know what is the welfare of the people for that. And I am saying that the idea that lawyers must protect the welfare of the people comes from this one stream of understanding of law as the art of what is good and just, which makes lawyers experts actually in legitimacy, not legality. Even a chartered accountant can be good at legality. So we are basically experts in ethics. Not all aspects of ethics like philosophers, but in ethics of human behavior. And we are experts in promoting positive ethics. And we believe that legitimacy comes from a set of positive ethics. And those ethics we should derive from the preamble, from the Constitution, preamble and part 3, mainly. And the most important central ethic of the constitutional system of ethics is liberty. And so social change is moving from a society like we have in India today, where somehow obedience to tradition is very important. Religious traditions, social traditions, family traditions. US-le ഒരു ഇന്ത്യൻ ഫാമിലിയെ കുറിച്ച് ഒരു ആക്ച്വൽ സ്റ്റോറി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അവരവിടെ താമസിക്കുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ അവരെ എപ്പോഴും എന്തെങ്കിലും ട്രഡീഷണൽ ഒബ്സർവൻസ് നടത്തുകയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു ഒബ്സർവൻസ് നടത്തുമ്പോൾ their tradition was ഒരു ബാസ്ക്കറ്റ്, ഒരു പൂച്ചയെ എടുത്തിട്ട് ഒരു പൂച്ചയെ പിടിച്ചിട്ട് പൂച്ചയുടെ ബാസ്ക്കറ്റിന്റെ അടിയിൽ വെക്കണം, അക്കോർഡിംഗ് ടു their tradition. അപ്പം അവർക്ക് പൂച്ചയില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് അവർ നെയ്ബേഴ്സിൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് പോയി ചോദിച്ചു, പൂച്ചയുണ്ടോ, പൂച്ച തരാമോ. പൂച്ചയെ ബോറോ ചെയ്ത്, എന്നിട്ട് പൂച്ചയെ ഈ ബാസ്ക്കറ്റിൻ്റെ അടിയിൽ വെച്ച് പൂച്ച ബഹളം ഉണ്ടാക്കി ചാടി. പൂച്ച അമേരിക്കൻ സായിപ്പ് പൂച്ചയല്ലേ, നോട്ട് യൂസ് ടു ബീങ് പുട്ട് അണ്ടർ എ ബാസ്ക്കറ്റ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് പൂച്ച ബഹളമൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാക്കി, നെയ്ബേഴ്സൊക്കെ വന്ന്, അങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇത് ന്യൂസിൽ വരുന്നത്. പിന്നെ ഇതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് അന്വേഷിച്ചപ്പം ആരോ റിസർച്ച് ചെയ്തിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞത് ഈ ഫെസ്റ്റീവ് ഒക്കേഷനിൽ ഒരുപാട് സ്വീറ്റ്സ് ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടാക്കുമായിരുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് അവരുടെ ട്രഡീഷനിൽ പൂച്ചകളൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പൂച്ച ഇങ്ങനത്തെ പെറ്റ്സ് ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഈ സ്വീറ്റ്സും ഫുഡും ഒക്കെ എടുത്ത് വെക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പേ ഇങ്ങനെ ഓടിച്ചാടി നടക്കുന്ന പെറ്റ്സിനെ ഒരു വലിയൊരു കൊട്ടയുടെ അടിയിലിട്ട് സെക്യൂർ ചെയ്ത് വെച്ചിട്ടേ ചെയ്യാൻ പാടുള്ളൂ എന്ന് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, ഫോർ എ വെരി പ്രാക്ടിക്കൽ റീസൺ. ഇപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ പൂച്ച ഇല്ലാത്ത ആള് പോലും പൂച്ചയെ തേടി നടന്ന് അതിനെ ഒരു കൊട്ടയ്ക്ക് അടുത്ത് വെച്ച് അങ്ങനെ ഒബ്സർവ് ചെയ്യണം ആ ട്രഡിഷൻ. ബ്ലൈൻഡ് ഒബീഡിയൻസ് ടു ട്രഡിഷൻ. And this gives us satisfaction that we are somehow good people. We are promoting our welfare of the people by obeying all these irrational traditions, which have no logic. So we don't question. So this is not the approach to what is the welfare of the people in the Constitution. It is based on liberty. And at the heart of liberty, if you ask me, is the freedom to question. That is the most important aspect of liberty, the freedom to question. How much freedom do I have to question? And to question disagreeably. Disagreeably. When the person who receives a question is very unhappy and very uncomfortable by the question, how much freedom do we have to do that? Or should we always say Satyam Vada, but Priyam Vada? That becomes a qualification on Satyam. So the skill that the lawyer has, and all that I've been saying so far ultimately, and I will stop here for some concluding questions on what I've said. The ultimate skill that the lawyer must have is to be able to question what is given wisdom. And the courage to do so when it is most unacceptable, most disagreeable, to uphold liberty of people, of those whose, as Nivedita said, those who are in some kind of bondage. So if after all these 30 days you don't develop the capacity to question what is wrong is what takes away the liberty of people. What takes away equality, fraternity, dignity of people. Whether it is custom, tradition, religious. Now you say Shabarimala, women cannot go. Okay, fine, women who don't want to go need not go. But how can people get out on the streets to prevent women who are devotees of Ayyappa, sincere devotees? I'm not saying political people, tourists, no. But sincere devotees of Ayyappa who believe that they want to go there and pray, how can we take away that freedom from them in the name of tradition? Certainly that is not legitimate. It may be legal, but it's not legitimate in the eyes of the ethical framework of the Constitution, which ultimately stands for individual freedom. People talk about Untitled Chapter. Untitled Chapter, is there a Dalit woman who is the priest in that temple? People say, men are not allowed to go to that Untitled festival. Who is the priest in that temple, Untitled temple? Can anyone dare to stop a Brahmin priest, male Brahmin priest, from entering a temple to be the priest? So ultimately, only those who are powerless are being stopped. That is what a lawyer cannot accept. A lawyer cannot accept that. An Indian lawyer cannot accept that. That anyone's freedom will be taken away. Because that won't be legitimate, even if it's legal. And we are experts. So skill we must have is to understand legitimacy, in a constitutional sense, and say we are guardians of legitimacy, guardians of justice. We are guardians of ethics, constitutional ethics. And the heart of the constitutional ethical framework is liberty. And therefore, what lawyers need to do to bring about social change is to help, is to promote, question the existing social order, as Nivedita said, to liberate us from the bondage in which each of us is put in, various human institutions, liberate us from those chains, set us free. And when we have a society where there is liberty, equality, fraternity, and dignity, by the way, society is only a set of shared values. Society is only a set of shared values. So when we talk of social change, social comes from the word socius. Socius, S-O-C-I-U-S, it means friend. That's why we say, "Iyala friend, social anti-social." Social just means friendly. Social change means changing the norms about what is friendly and what is not friendly, what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. That is social change. Changing the norms, the manadandam of what is right and wrong, that is social change. So lawyers must bring about a change in that manadandam to bring it in line with the constitutional manadandam. And the most important skill that the lawyer must have, ultimately, as I said, is to question what is given wisdom that stands against it. But I think in your toolkit you must have the ability to construct an argument, to persuade people. But why the norms that we now accept, which is what we mean when we talk about society, need to change. And need to be in line with what is good and just, because that is what lawyers do. So we must have the skill. We don't have bullets, we don't have stones, we don't have sticks, we only have words. So we must learn to use words to convince people that we must treat each other in order to have legitimacy. Our state and our government and all our institutions of national life must be based upon these constitutional values of freedom and equality and fraternity and dignity. And we must take those away from our own minds. And those who do not have it are the dominant social groups. They don't believe in this. Their minds need to be reformed, not the minds of the common people or the poor. They know that it is wrong to be treated with inequality and for our freedom to be taken away. They know that. They don't need to be convinced. We have to either convince or replace those who are in power, who believe in hierarchy and not equality, who believe in obedience and not liberty and freedom, who believe in not questioning, but obeying and accepting and keeping alive systems which oppress people. It's a very hard task, as one of you said, it's very hard task to convince those who are in power to give up their power. Because if you take away the caste system, for example, we are all just human beings, which is the truth. You can't take pride in belonging to X caste or Y caste and imagine that you're so good and feel so good about yourself that you belong to some higher caste. When there is no such thing as a higher caste or a lower caste. We are just one species, Homo sapiens. And therefore, we must use our legal skill, which is a skill of distinguishing between, the legal skill is a skill of distinguishing between what is legitimate and just and what is illegitimate and unjust. Legal skill is not knowing the law. Every accountant, many accountants know the law more than lawyers do. But a real skill of the lawyer is to be able to distinguish between what is legitimate and illegitimate, what is just and unjust, what is good and bad. Because law is the art of what is good and just. And changing the accepted social norms of what is right conduct from norms that are harmful and repressive for the majority of people, and replacing them with norms that are honest, truthful, reasonable, conducive to liberty, equality, fraternity, and dignity. That is social change. And we bring about that social change by attacking the norms that may be lawful, that may be unlawful, but that are certainly illegitimate and unjust, by coming up with solutions that will actually bring about a change in those norms through legislation or judicial interpretation or through arguments in court or through campaigning or creating consciousness, so that we will implement Article 38(1) and promote the welfare of the people by creating a new social order. Let me stop here and then see if you have any comments or questions, and then we can end after that. And thank you to all those, the 6 or so people who participated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We had asked our teams to come up with questions if they had any, and a few of them had given questions, and I now call upon Giridhar V, if he's present here from College of Law, Trivandrum, to pose his question.
Thank you, ma'am. Myself, Giridhar V, sir, and I'm from Margagori's College of Law, Naranjara, Trivandrum. Yes. So I'm so glad to have interaction with you, sir.
Thank you.
So, sir, actually, my question is, when we be a cooperative lawyer, we sometimes have to adjust to the needs and necessity of the company and the organization. In such a situation, would we able to hold onto the social change?
Very good question. Very good question. What was your name again?
Sir, my son Giridhar.
Giridhar. Okay. Margagor. Yes, Giridhar. Yes, Giridhar Margagorius. Yes. No, I think this is the. I think the answer is very clear. See, if you are a lawyer, like Gandhi said, you have to resign your job or do the right thing. You have to do what you believe is legitimate and just. If not, you're not a lawyer. You're just using the label of a lawyer to earn a living, but you're not a lawyer. So, whatever the cost, you can't. It is like saying, if a company, you're a company doctor, and there is a trade union leader of the company, and so the managing director calls you and says, look, doctor, why don't you give him a medicine that will kill him? If not, we will terminate your services as our medical officer. Let's say he does not put it so directly, but indirectly he says that. And let's say this doctor decides to do it. Is he acting as a doctor? Giridhar?
Sir? Hello?
Yeah. Did you hear what I asked? No. Was I audible?
Yes, sir.
So if this company doctor agrees to harm this man, let's say not kill him, but give him, like this Russian fellow got poisoned. Doctor, give him some medicine that will poison him and knock him out for the next 6 months. And if the doctor does that, will he be acting as a doctor?
No, sir.
Yeah. Why? Because a doctor, anyone who does anything to harm a human being is not a doctor. He's a criminal.
Yes, sir.
Similarly, the moment you compromise with in your job, with your company, to do something that does not promote the welfare of the people and is not honest, reasonable, good, fair, and just, then you're not acting as a lawyer. Because you're there, you're not an accountant. You're there only to safeguard what is good and just and honest and reasonable. You're only there to protect what is legitimate and just. That's the role of a lawyer. And by doing that, you promote social change, because social change means changing the social norms to make them just and reasonable and fair as stipulated in the Constitution, namely based on liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity of individuals. So everything you do must promote the liberty of people who don't, who are deprived of liberty, and should not defraud people.
So next we have Nishita Balachandran.
Yes.
From Government Law College, Ernakulam, for a question. Nishita, please.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Nishita. Thank you.
Sir, my question is, how could a young generation of lawyers be a bridge between the old and the modern way of lawful society?
Yeah. So, Nishita, from what I've said so far, my personal is a very good question. Both are very good questions. Giridhar's question was also a very good question. My point is that, you see, one framework is to look at what is old and what is new, and the other is to look at what is what is rational, what is truthful, what is reasonable, and what is not. So there are many new things which may be untruthful, unreasonable, irrational, and there are old things which may be very, very truthful and new and correct. The question is, how do you define truth? And that is where we say that knowledge is true justified belief. So we have methodologies of establishing what is true and what is not, which is what we mean by science. Science as a method of thinking, as a method of knowing. Right? So ultimately, what it requires is that we must develop the skills of reasoning and pursue truth, established through a process of reasoning. Reasoning is ultimately simply a system of questioning, to expose any weaknesses in any proposition, so that once we look at the evidence and we subject it to scrutiny and questioning, then we can end up with something that is reliable and which we can accept as truthful, at least for the time being. So therefore, I think it's not a question of old or new. So, the theory of gravity may be a little old, but we still accept it because it is truthful. Right? It has been, to some extent, modified by later developments in physics. So we look at that also. But if old is used as a basis for us to be forced to believe something, that's wrong. That this is old and therefore it must, old is gold. No, old is not gold. New can be gold also. Old could be gold, may not be gold. There's a lot of stuff in old which is not good. So I think the question is not to look at something as old or not old, or as Giridhar said, this company wants you to do something or does not want you to do something. we must develop a skill of reasoning, which I refer to as questioning. We must develop the skill of rigorous reasoning and understand that very deeply. What does it mean? And then make our own judgments about, regardless of whether something is new or old. But good question.
So next we have Gauri Shankar SB from CSI Institute of Legal Studies.
Yes.
Gauri Shankar SB.
Gauri Shankar from where? Gauri Shankar?
CSI Institute of Legal Studies, Trivandrum. If he is available here, he had a question.
What Institute of Legal Studies?
CSI Institute.
Oh, okay. CSI Institute, yeah. Of Legal Studies.
I don't think he's responding. Can I move to the next person, sir?
Yeah.
Aishwarya M, Government Law College, Ernakulam.
Yes.
Aishwarya, are you here?
Yes. Hello, sir.
Yes, Aishwarya.
Sir, firstly, thank you so much for your words. It's totally enlightening.
Thank you.
Sir, my question is basically, I would like to connect your words into a term that is pro bono, which ultimately means public good.
Yes.
Sir, my question is, how we can contribute to pro bono works as law students, like how important it is, sir.
See, the word pro bono, it has two meanings. See, the Latin phrase that I was referring to, I translated as law is the art of the good and the just, right? As what is good and just. And there the word boni is used. It is, if I remember correctly, jus est ars boni et a equi. That is, boni means good. So yes, pro bono is for the good, right? Now that is confused with doing something for free. In other words, what is not pro bono is pro bado. Not pro bono, but pro bado. And that's not correct. Everything you do must be pro bono. The question is, are you paid to do it? And how are you paid to do it? Right? That's a much more complicated question. And it makes it very difficult for a lot of people to work as lawyers. It makes it very difficult for people to work as lawyers in very high-paying jobs. And I often feel that lawyers who are paid very large amounts of money are paid very large amounts of money because the more you go away from bono, the more money you have to be paid to do what you're doing. Right? Whereas some of the most interesting work is actually pro bono work. And because it's standing up for the David against the Goliath, standing up for what is good and just against what is wrong. But that's usually not well paid. So you have to find a way. That's a major challenge and a major skill. That's why I'm focusing my entire talk, my interaction on this question that social change is changing society from the bad to the good, as defined according to constitutional values, to a good society. And the role of the lawyer is to uphold those ideas of goodness and bring about that change by changing the norms that govern society from bad norms to good norms. And how do you do that and make a living? And that's why traditionally a lot of the lawyers were not supposed to be paid at all. But that's not possible in today's world. You have to earn a living. So in my own case, I've struggled to move from one role to another role. Trying to find a space where I can promote what is good. And I've so far only done that. I've not done anything else. But it means that you can't always make a long-term career. So if you're ambitious to become someone famous, important, powerful, then you can't make a lawyer, actually. You shouldn't be in law. You should do an MBA or something. Because law should and does produce a lot of ethical conflicts in your mind, in your day-to-day life and in your profession. Because law is about enforcing the most precious and important rules of ethics. So philosophers in ethics may produce lots of ethical ideas, But lawyers come in and we pick the, looking at what society wants or looking at the kind of society we want, or sometimes but driven by various forces, we make an argument that some of these ethical ideas are the most important ones, and then we make a living in safeguarding those values against attack by the most powerful people. It's a tough job, very tough job. It's like a doctor fighting a virus. Bad values are the virus that we fight. Legitimacy and justice are the vaccines we use to fight those bad viruses. Very tough job. Aishwarya.
So next we have Anantu from Kerala Law Academy, Trivandrum. Anantu, your question, please.
Hello, sir.
Anantu, namaste.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My question is, within 3 years, we will celebrate the golden jubilee of basic structure of our basic structure doctrine. This doctrine provides that while exercising power under Article 368, the basic structure of the Constitution shouldn't be violated or defeated. So my question is, how far the new law like CAB, like Citizen Amendment Bill, is consistent with this basic structure doctrine of our Constitution?
Billokka കഴിഞ്ഞു CAA ആയില്ലേ?
അതെ CA അത് എങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ കൺസിസ്റ്റന്റ് ആവുന്നത്?
അല്ല, അതാണ് നമ്മൾ as lawyers, very good question, Anantu, very good question. As lawyers, we have to focus at the higher level of what is legitimate and just. And for that, we must use the Constitution, the core values of the Constitution as our benchmark. Padili, liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity. Okay. We are trying to construct a society. We are trying to construct a society where we don't know where the society will go, but we want to create a country with 130 crores of, that's our ideal, right? 130 crores of people enjoying complete individual liberty under only one condition, that you shall not use that liberty to harm another person, to take away the liberty of another person. Otherwise, you can do whatever you want. Right? 130 crores of people liberated from the bondage, as Nivedita said, liberated from the bondage of these human institutions and free. I mean, this can transform the world. If this vision is liberated, this can transform the world. We don't know whether India will last, what will happen, but this is the enterprise of the Indian Constitution. On the other side, what we are finding as a very dominant force is that a small group of people, Guru Golwalkar conceptualized this, if you read his bunch of thoughts, a small group of people came up with some ideas based on their own community's culture about what is right, when to get up in the morning, how to breathe, how to sleep, what to eat, what to dress, what to wear, what to believe, what language to speak, what to read, who at what stage, what age you should do what caste you accept, that a caste system based on Chaturvarnya. All these aspects of every aspect of your life is prescribed, and you're told there is no, if freedom is bad, democracy is bad. If you're a woman, your exact role is there in that culture, the sanskara. In fact, Golwalkar says a nation is only a culture. Whose culture? Their culture. The culture of not even all Brahmins, but maybe the Chitpavan Brahmins. And a lot of it may be shared by others also, but at the core is a culture of a small community of Chitpavan Brahmins that Golwalkar came from. The way they live, what they do, their values, their relationship with parents, everything they've codified and called it Hindu Rashtra. Actually, it is a program of perpetuating the caste of one small culture. And they've called it Hinduism and Hindu Rashtra. And the entire country, 130 crores of people, must unquestioningly accept this culture, practice that culture, destroy their own contrary beliefs and contrary habits. So no more getting up at 7 in the morning or 10 in the morning. You have to get up at Brahma Muhurta at 3 a.m. or whatever the right word is. And everything has to be followed by 130 crores of people. These are the two visions in front of us. Right? And we must understand CAA and others are instruments in which through which this battle is being fought between two visions of a very detailed code of how every human being must think, live, act, be born and die from birth to death. You just have to obey, accept, don't question. No scope for freedom. Openly Golwalkar says freedom is against freedom, he's against democracy. Now, I'm not saying that, see, I'm just describing it. I'm not saying it is right or wrong. I'm not commenting on it. But I'm saying these are the choices we have. So Keshwananda Bharati, to some extent, went against Ambedkar's concept, as did Golaknath, although to a lesser extent, by saying that no, Parliament does not have the unlimited power to amend the Constitution. If Keshwananda Bharati had stopped and simply said, you cannot take away liberty, that's it, no second part of the basic structure, I would have been, personally, I would have had much less difficulty. Right? Yes, Parliament can amend anything it wants, but it cannot take away liberty. That's enough, because through that liberty, we can defend everything, equality, democracy, everything we can defend. But you cannot take away liberty or equality. Please remember, Article 14 has, unlike Article 19, liberty is not in 19, freedom is in 19, liberty is in the preamble. Article 14 has no reasonable restrictions. So Article 14 simply says that the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws. No reasonable restriction. Absolute right to equality. So maybe they could have simply said equality and freedom and stopped there and said nothing else is part of the basic structure. So the CA, basically we are fighting this battle. I don't know you, so I can't include you or not in it, but certainly speaking for myself, I am from a Prakrit background. So the whole project is to uplift me, make me Sanskrit, more refined. Because എൻ്റെ മനസ്സിലുള്ള ചിന്തകൾ, എൻ്റെ ദൈവവിശ്വാസങ്ങൾ, എൻ്റെ ദൈവങ്ങൾ, എൻ്റെ പൈതൃകരുടെ ദൈവങ്ങൾ, വിശ്വാസങ്ങൾ, ഇതെല്ലാം പ്രാകൃതമാണ്. Somehow crude, bad, undeveloped. ഇതിനൊക്കെ റിഫൈൻ ചെയ്ത് ഒരു പെർഫെക്റ്റ് മാൻ ആക്കണം, ഒരു സംസ്കൃതീകരിക്കണം, റിഫൈൻ ചെയ്യണം. അതിനൊരു മാനദണ്ഡം, ഒരു ഡീറ്റെയിൽഡ് ഫോർമുല ഉണ്ട്, ഡീറ്റെയിൽഡ് ഫോർമുല. From the moment you get up in the morning, including the time till you go to sleep, and then what you do in the sleep, how you must lie down, everything is regulated. അങ്ങനെ സംസ്കൃതീകരിച്ച് എന്നെ ഒരു പെർഫെക്റ്റ് മാനാക്കി അപ്ലിഫ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള ഒരു പ്രോഗ്രാം. കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ പറയുന്നത്, ഇവിടുത്തെ ദളിത്സിന്റെ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനാണ് ഈ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ. കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ പറയുന്നത് ഇതൊന്നും വേണ്ട, എല്ലാവർക്കും സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യം കൊടുക്കുക, അതിനുവേണ്ടി സമത്വം കൊടുക്കുക. Let people do what they want. That is the Dalit culture. Freedom. Then let me choose my own framework. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ടസിലാണ് അനന്തു ഇവിടെ നടക്കുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്ത്. ആൻഡ് ഇതിനെ ഈ ഒരു ചെറിയ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റീൻ്റെ കൾച്ചറിനെ നമുക്ക് അക്സെപ്റ്റബിൾ ആക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി ഇതൊരു ഹിന്ദു ആണ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് ഹിന്ദുത്വം, ഹിന്ദു എന്നൊക്കെ പേരുകളൊക്കെ കൊടുത്തു. പക്ഷേ if you read bunch of thoughts, Golwalkar himself says the word Hindu cannot be defined. Cannot be defined. Golwalkar says Hindu cannot be defined. So then what is he calling us Hindu then? He's calling us Hindu actually the sanskara of his community. And CAA is an instrument to say anyone who doesn't belong to that sanskara, because you are in another religion, you cannot even be made Sanskritiകരിക്കാൻ പോലും ഒക്കാത്തവരാണെങ്കിൽ, then you are not a citizen of India. ഈ ഒരു വളരെ ഡീപ്പായിട്ടുള്ള ബാറ്റിൽ നടക്കുന്നത്. ഇപ്പം ഒബീഡിയൻസ് വേഴ്സസ് ലിബർട്ടി, ഇതാണ് ഒബീഡിയൻസ് വേഴ്സസ് ലിബർട്ടി. യെസ്, we only, those who believe in liberty will obey all laws that protect liberty. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else. Those who believe in obedience will obey all laws that ensure obedience and nothing else. This is the fight we are having in our country. And it is only those countries where liberty has been given relatively more weight that have managed to improve their human condition. Anantu, I hope I've responded a little bit in a different way to your question.
Thank you, sir. Sir,
ചോദിച്ചോളൂ അനന്തു. ഒരു സെക്കൻഡ് അനന്തു, ഒന്ന് ഒരു ഫോളോ അപ്പ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു അനന്തു.
സാർ, നമ്മളപ്പോ ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞാൽ പല റിലീജിയൻ, ഇപ്പോ നമ്മളെ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ആണ് സുപ്രീം എന്ന് പറയുമെങ്കിലും, കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനെ നമ്മൾ നമ്മുടെ ബൈബിളായിട്ട് കാണണമെന്ന് പറയുമെങ്കിലും, പലരും പല റിലീജിയൻ സ്വീകരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അത് പറയുന്നത് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതിന്റെ പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾസ് ഫോളോ ചെയ്യാൻ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നുണ്ട് ഇപ്പോഴും. അപ്പൊ അതൊന്ന് മാറ്റി വെച്ചിട്ട് കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനെ നമ്മൾ കുറച്ചും കൂടി കൂടുതലായിട്ട് അറിയാനും നമ്മൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കാനും ശ്രമിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ ഒരു പ്രോബ്ലം കുറെ സോൾവ് ആകത്തില്ല സർ?
അതെ, അല്ലെ, നമുക്ക് അനന്തു കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനെ കാണേണ്ടത് അതിന്റെ കോർ ഐഡിയ എന്താണ്? സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യമാണ്, വ്യക്തി സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യം. ഒരു റെവല്യൂഷണറി എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഈ ദളിത് കൾച്ചേഴ്സിൽ, നമ്മുടെ ട്രൈബൽ കൾച്ചേഴ്സിൽ ഒരുപാട് വ്യക്തി സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യമുള്ള കൾച്ചേഴ്സാണ്, ഒരുപാട് ഫ്ലെക്സിബിലിറ്റിയും ഫ്രീഡമും ഉള്ള കൾച്ചേഴ്സാണ്. എല്ലാവരും അങ്ങനെയാണെന്നല്ല ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത്, പക്ഷെ ദേ ബിലീവ് ഇൻ ദാറ്റ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അവർക്ക് വലിയ ഗ്രൂപ്പ്സ് ആയിട്ട് സ്കെയിലപ്പ് ചെയ്യാൻ ഒക്കാത്തത്. ബിക്കോസ് സ്കെയിലപ്പ് ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഒബീഡിയൻസ് വന്നാലേ ഒരു വലിയ സംഘടന ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ നോക്കുകയുള്ളൂ. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഈ ട്രൈബൽ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻസ് ഒക്കെ കൊച്ചു കൊച്ചു ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ. ബിക്കോസ് പീപ്പിൾ ഒരു പോയിന്റ് കൂടുതൽ ആരും ഒബേ ചെയ്യില്ല, ബിക്കോസ് വി ഡോണ്ട് വാല്യൂ ഒബീഡിയൻസ്. അപ്പൊ ഈ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, ഈ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ഒരു ഹോളി ബുക്കായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ കാണരുത്. കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനെ കാണേണ്ടത് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എൻ ആസ്പിറേഷൻ ഫോർ ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ലിബർട്ടി. ആ ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ലിബർട്ടിക്ക് വേണ്ടി നമ്മൾ ഫൈറ്റ് ചെയ്യണം. അപ്പോൾ we must use a constitution to otherwise this nobody, see, ultimately you cannot subjugate this country. We are very free people. നമ്മുടെ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഈ പ്രാകൃത ആൾക്കാരില്ലേ നമ്മളൊക്കെ, ഞാനൊക്കെ, എനിക്ക് ബാക്കി ആര് പ്രാകൃതം ആണെന്ന് പറയാൻ എനിക്ക് അധികാരമില്ല. ബിക്കോസ് ഐ ബിലീവ് ഇൻ ലിബർട്ടി. യു കൻ കൺസിഡർ യുവർ സെൽഫ് പ്രാകൃത് ഓർ സംസ്കൃത്, ബട്ട് ഐ കൺസിഡർ മൈസെൽഫ് പ്രാകൃത്. ഈ പ്രാകൃതമായിട്ടുള്ള നമുക്ക് വി കനോട്ട് ഈസിലി ഒബേ. നമ്മൾ കൺവിൻസ്ഡ് ആണെങ്കിലേ നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുള്ളൂ. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒക്കെ പ്രിറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്യും, പൊളൈറ്റ് ആയിട്ടിരിക്കും, പക്ഷേ ഒബേ ചെയ്യൂല. അതാണ് നമ്മുടെ ശക്തി. അതിനെ അംബേദ്കറിന്റെ ജീനിയസും പലരുടെ സപ്പോർട്ട്, നെഹ്റു ഉൾപ്പെടെ പലരുടെയും സപ്പോർട്ടോടുകൂടി ഈ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ഈസ് എ ചാർട്ടർ ഫോർ ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ലിബർട്ടി. അതിനെ അടിച്ചമർത്താൻ ജുഡീഷ്യൽ ഇന്റർപ്രിട്ടേഷൻ, പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ ഇന്റർപ്രിട്ടേഷൻ, അമെൻമെന്റ്സ്, തിയോളജി, ഇപ്പൊ തന്നെ പറയുന്നതാണ് കോമൺ ഗുഡ്, യൂണിറ്റി, ഹാർമണി. യൂണിറ്റി ആൻഡ് ഹാർമണിക്കൊന്നും വേണ്ടി അല്ല നമ്മൾ ഈ റിപ്പബ്ലിക് ഉണ്ടാക്കിയത്. നമ്മൾ വ്യക്തി സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യത്തിന് വേണ്ടിയാണ്. വ്യക്തി സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യം വന്നാൽ ഒരുപാട് ഡിസ്യൂണിറ്റി ഉണ്ടാകും. യൂണിറ്റി ഇല്ലാത്ത സിറ്റുവേഷൻ ആണ് വാസ്തവത്തിൽ സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യം. യൂണിറ്റി ഈസ് സംതിങ് എൻഫോഴ്സ്ഡ് ഓൺ us. ഒരു നാച്ചുറൽ പീസ്, യു ഹാവ് ഫ്രീഡം ആൻഡ് പീസ്. യൂണിറ്റിക്ക് ഒരു സ്കോപ്പില്ല. ഒരു പീസ്ഫുൾ ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഓഫ് പീപ്പിൾ ഹു ആർ ഫ്രീ പീപ്പിൾ ഹു ഡോണ്ട് ഫൈറ്റ് വിത്ത് ഈച്ച് അതർ, യു വിൽ ഗെറ്റ് പീസ്. ഇല്ലേ? യൂണിറ്റി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ സംഹൗ ഇറ്റ് എഫക്ട്സ് അവർ ഫ്രീഡം. ഇല്ല, അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ ഒരു ലിബർട്ടിയിൽ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കാരാണ്. അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ വി മസ്റ്റ് അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ് ദ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ. അപ്പൊ പല റിലിജൻസും അങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് ഫ്രീഡം, ഒരുപാട് ഫ്രീഡം തരുന്നുണ്ട് വാസ്തവത്തിൽ. Christianity, there are theories about human, how God has given freedom to you. അതുകൊണ്ടല്ലേ hell and heaven ഒക്കെ കൊണ്ടുവന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഈ നന്മയും തിന്മയും തിരിച്ചറിയാനും അത് ചെയ്യാനും വേണ്ടി ദൈവം സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യം നമുക്ക് തന്നിരിക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ള വിശ്വാസമുള്ള റിലിജൻ അല്ലേ ക്രിസ്ത്യാനിറ്റി? അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഇസ്ലാം ഓൾസോ believes that see there are two influences on you, Satan and God. You choose, അല്ലേ? പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ ഈ ഹിന്ദു, പക്ഷെ ഞാൻ എന്നെ കാണുന്നു ആദി ഹിന്ദു എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത്. ആര്യൻ ഹിന്ദു അല്ല, ആദി ഹിന്ദു. നമ്മൾ ഹിന്ദുസിനോട് ആര്യൻ ഹിന്ദുവിസം നമ്മളോട് പറഞ്ഞു തരുന്നത് എന്താണ്? നമ്മളുടെ ആക്ച്വലി നമുക്ക് യാതൊരു ഫ്രീഡവും ഇല്ല. നമ്മുടെ പ്രാരബ്ധം, നമ്മുടെ പൂർവ്വജന്മ കർമ്മത്തിൽ നിന്ന് വരുന്ന പ്രാരബ്ധം അനുസരിച്ച് ഒരു വൂമ്പിൽ നമ്മുടെ ഡെലിബറേറ്റ്ലി നമ്മൾ ഇടുന്നു, നമ്മളെ ഒരു ഹ്യൂമൻ കണ്ടീഷനിൽ നമ്മൾ ജനിക്കുന്നു, അത് നമ്മൾ അക്സെപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് ജീവിക്കണം. നമുക്ക് യാതൊരു സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യവും ഇല്ല എന്നാണ്. അപ്പൊ എല്ലാവരും ബുദ്ധിസം ഈസ് ദ മാക്സ് ഇല്ല, ബുദ്ധിസം ഗിവ്സ് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ഫ്രീഡം ടു തിങ്ക് എനിത്തിങ്. ഞാൻ ഒരിക്കൽ ഡൽഹിയിൽ ദലൈലാമയുടെ ഒരു സ്പീച്ച് കേൾക്കാൻ പോയി. ദലൈലാമ ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് ബുദ്ധനെ ക്രിട്ടിസൈസ് ചെയ്യാൻ തുടങ്ങി. ബുദ്ധ അവിടെ തെറ്റി, ബുദ്ധൻ ഇവിടെ തെറ്റി, അത് തെറ്റായിരുന്നു. അപ്പൊ ഒരാൾ ചോദിച്ചു, സാറ് ഈ ദലൈലാമയല്ലേ, അപ്പൊ സാർ ഇവിടെ ഇരുന്നുകൊണ്ട് ഈ ബുദ്ധൻ തെറ്റാണെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ശരിയാണോ? അപ്പൊ he was surprised. He said, see, Buddhism means including Buddha, എല്ലാവരും പറയുന്നത് നമ്മൾ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ചെയ്യണം. നമ്മൾ കൺവിൻസ്ഡ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ കൺവിൻസ്ഡ് അല്ല. അപ്പൊ അത് ഈ ബുദ്ധൻ പലരും എഴുതിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ബുദ്ധൻ പറഞ്ഞു, ഞാൻ പറയുന്നതെല്ലാം വളരെ ഏൻഷ്യൻ തോട്ട്സ് ആണെന്നാണ് ബുദ്ധൻ പറഞ്ഞത്. അതായത് ഈ ബുദ്ധിസം തന്നെ വരുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ ട്രൈബൽ റിലിജൻസിൽ നിന്നാണ് ബുദ്ധിസം വരുന്നത്. ബുദ്ധ തന്നെ പറഞ്ഞു, ഞാൻ പറയുന്ന ഒന്നും ഒറിജിനൽ അല്ല എന്ന്, ഞാൻ പറയുന്ന ഒന്നും പുതിയതല്ല എന്ന് ബുദ്ധൻ പറഞ്ഞു എന്ന് ഒരു റെക്കോർഡുണ്ട്. ഞാൻ പറയുന്ന എല്ലാം ഏൻഷ്യൻ തോട്ട്സ് ആണ്. അപ്പൊ 6th century BC-യിലുള്ള ഏൻഷ്യൻ തോട്ട്സ് ആരുടെ ഏൻഷ്യൻ തോട്ട്സ് ആണ്? ഇവിടുത്തെ ട്രൈബൽസിന്റെ തോട്ട്സ് ആണ് ബുദ്ധിസം, അല്ലേ? അപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് ഈ റിലിജൻ വേഴ്സസ് കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനുള്ള ഫൈറ്റ് അല്ല. കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷന്റെ ഉള്ളിലും ഈ ഒബീഡിയൻസിനെ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന പല പ്രൊവിഷൻസും ഒരു കൺസർവേറ്റീവ് സൊസൈറ്റി ഇട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. റൈറ്റ് ടു ലിമിറ്റ് അവർ ഫ്രീഡം ഫോർ ദ സേക്ക് ഓഫ് സെഡീഷൻ ആൻഡ് യു കനോട്ട് ഡിസൊബേ ദ ഗവൺമെന്റ്, ഒരുപാട് പ്രൊവിഷൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. പക്ഷേ അതിൻ്റെ കൂടെ ഇവർ ഈ ലിബർട്ടിയുടെ ഒരു വലിയൊരു സീഡ്, ലിബർട്ടി ആൻഡ് ഇക്വാളിറ്റിയുടെ ഒരു വലിയൊരു സീഡ്, ഫോർ ദ ഫസ്റ്റ് ടൈം ഇൻ ദ ഹിസ്റ്ററി ഓഫ് ദ സബ് കോണ്ടിനെന്റ് ഒരു സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ഡോക്യുമെന്റിൽ ലിബർട്ടി ആൻഡ് ഇക്വാളിറ്റി എന്ന് എഴുതി ചേർത്തു. Credit for that goes to Ambedkar and many others, including Nehru and several people. അവരിത് എഴുതി ചേർത്തു. പക്ഷേ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനിൽ ഞാൻ പലപ്പോഴും പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനിൽ റെവല്യൂഷണറി എലിമെന്റ്സ് ഉണ്ട്, കൗണ്ടർ റെവല്യൂഷണറി എലിമെന്റ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. ഈ റെവല്യൂഷണറി എലിമെന്റ്സിനോട് നമ്മൾ വളരെ അടുത്ത് നിൽക്കുകയും അതിനെ സ്ട്രെങ്തൻ ചെയ്യുകയും ഡീപ്പൺ ചെയ്യുകയും ഡിഫെൻഡ് ചെയ്യുകയും ചെയ്യണം. കൗണ്ടർ റെവല്യൂഷണറി എലിമെന്റ്സ് ലൈക്ക് പ്രിവെന്റീവ് ഡിറ്റൻഷൻ, ഇതിനൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ അമെൻഡ് ചെയ്യണം. അതാണ് സോഷ്യൽ ചേഞ്ച്. കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ എന്നിട്ട് ഒരു പ്യുവർ ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് ഫോർ ലിബർട്ടി ആക്കണം. ഏത് ജാതി, ഏത് മതം, എന്ത് ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ട് ആയാലും യു ആർ എൻറ്റൈറ്റിൽഡ് ടു യുവർ ഫ്രീഡം, ഇല്ലേ? നോബഡി ഷുഡ് ഡിക്റ്റേറ്റ് ടു യു വാട്ട് ടു ബിലീവ്. അതുകൊണ്ടല്ലേ ഗാന്ധി വാസ് ഓൾസോ ഇതുപോലെ ഒരു ആര്യൻ ഹിന്ദു ആയിരുന്നു. വളരെ ആളുകളെ കൺസ്ട്രെയിൻ ചെയ്യണം, ആളുകളെ റെഗുലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണം എന്നൊക്കെ ഒരുപാട് ബിലീഫ്സ് ഗാന്ധിക്ക് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഓൾദോ ഹി said all this in the sedition trial speech, he also had, not to the extreme extent, but he also believed in restraints being placed by society. I'm all in favor of my placing restraints on myself, but only the society should only put a restraint on me that I cannot take away the freedom of Anantu or anybody else, or everything else should be left to me, to my responsibility. I must have freedom, I must take responsibility. അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു റിലിജൻ വേഴ്സസ് ഇതെന്നുള്ള അല്ല, ഈ റിലിജനിലും നിന്നും നമ്മൾ ഏജൻസി, ഓട്ടോണമി, ഫ്രീഡത്തിന് കിട്ടുന്നത് വി മസ്റ്റ് അക്സെപ്റ്റ് ആൻഡ് use that to defend liberty. For those who believe in religion, I am personally not one of those, but if you believe in religion, you can find help in religion also. Okay. To defend liberty. the whole idea of religion is actually a loss of liberty because you're forced to believe something and have blind faith. But if you can convert that into something that will further strengthen liberty, it is very good.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Next question we have Fatima A. From Mar Gregorius College of Law, Trivandrum.
Yes, Fatima.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Fatima.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
First of all, I would like to thank you for this wonderful session, sir. It was very informative.
Thank you.
Now I have a question, sir.
Yes.
My question is, what is your opinion on relevance of contempt of court laws? And do you perceive it as a bar on freedom of speech and expression, especially in the current scenario? And what do you think would be the consequence of abolishing the law in India?
Fatima, like most countries in the world, we should also do away with criminal contempt. Civil contempt, namely disobeying the orders of the court, obstructing the work of the court, that is fine. And there are many provisions in the Indian Penal Code called offences against public justice. That is also fine. But this scandalizing the court, I have publicly spoken against that. I think it's high time that it won't happen, but we must all campaign against it. I do agree that it is an impediment to freedom of speech and expression. I think courts should have broad enough shoulders to accept criticism and encourage criticism. And if there is something defamatory, then the judge can always file a suit for defamation. And then, since they are in charge of the courts, that will also help to ensure that courts work better, because they'll then if they make courts work better, then they'll get quick justice. But the short answer is yes. I think the criminal contempt, scandalizing the court, is a constraint on freedom of speech, and ultimately that hurts the judiciary, because no system can develop unless it is freely questioned.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you so much.
Next, Rosemary Varki, your question from Government Law College, Ernakulam.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Thank you for this thought-provoking discussion.
Thank you.
My question is about one dilemma. Like at one point of time, vast majority of people believed that sati is rational, and caste hierarchies were also rational and justified. And then a minority in the society started realizing all is useless and a new can be gold. And then they start standing up against the Goliath. But the thing is that it brings disturbance in the society. So you know that as a judge or a lawyer, you know that until and unless we reach, until and unless a critical mass of people reach the awareness level or educated enough, we cannot bring in any social change. So as a judge or lawyer, if you are faced with such a dilemma, like the dilemma as to whether prevalence of peace should be given priority or holding on to the legitimacy of the right thing to do. So how do you decide or go ahead?
So I think, again, Rosemary, thank you for all your interventions, and again for this very good question. See, the question is really not peace versus disorder arising from change. If society is only a set of shared values, if those shared values are resulting in loss of liberty and freedom for any section of people, small or large, then we must question that social order and the norms which are taking away those freedoms. And then there will be a difference of opinion between those who are questioning and those who are defending. Now, I don't believe that at any point of time the majority believed that the caste system was good. No. The majority always believed that it was bad, because nobody likes to be subject to discrimination. But the myth was that the majority approved of it. Actually, it was a very small minority. And there was relatively, let us say, there was a lot of peace, because people were obeying unjust laws in order to preserve peace for themselves and for society. They were obeying unjust laws. They were suffering unjust laws. Now, peace, that is not peace. That is suppression. That is not peace. Peace, ultimately, is a quality that is not simply absence of conflict or absence of war. That's not peace. So we must understand what exactly is peace, right? So peace is a result of there being no war or violence, of people living together happily with contentment, equality, and dignity and fraternity. That is peace. So we should not mistake absence of disturbances as peace. We should not mistake quietness as peace, because you go to a graveyard, you'll get a lot of peace, but that's because people are all dead, not because they are living happily together, right? We must understand that true peace comes only on the basis of freedom, equality, dignity, and fraternity. When people are living happily together, that is real peace. If you look at the etymological word or meaning also, you will understand that. Shanti or Samadhanam. And therefore, now the question is, if you are in a state of suppression, where people are quiet and are forced to accept injustice, and therefore there is an apparent quietness, the silence of the graveyard, and you know that certain norms have to be changed, which are oppressing people, to bring about peace. To bring about peace, norms have to be changed. And that process is going to be very difficult and controversial, because the powerful people, as one of you said at the beginning, will lose a lot. And, you know, I think it was you, Rosemary, I think you said, you also said, no, that some people will lose and some people will win, right? And so this is a process that's going to be difficult for those who are in power, and it's going to be beneficial for those who are not in power. It's going to be turbulent. To establish this effort to bring about social change, namely change in norms governing society, to bring about peace, is going to be difficult and is going to be full of friction and full of resistance. Then our responsibility as lawyers is to find a peaceful way in which to bring about that change. Through arguments, through persuasion, and through arguments about legitimacy and justice and legality where necessary, but informed by legitimacy and justice. So a court of law is a peaceful battlefield where social norms and social struggles are taking place. I sometimes in my work refer to the Constitution as a site of struggle. So it is a site of peaceful struggle, non-violent struggle. But that struggle must be peaceful, it must be non-violent, it must be based on words, we must develop a framework, as we did during the freedom movement, on what is the basis of deciding on what norms we should follow, and that is democracy, where we have majority making decisions subject to strong protection of minority rights, because we are all minorities in India. We are all minorities, depending on how you define it. There is no real majority in India at all. So since we are a country of minorities, we have a minority-oriented democracy because we are all minorities, where every type of minority, religious, linguistic, regional, cultural, caste, creed, language, geography, we are all protected. And through that process of democratic discourse and democratic decision-making, which is set out in the Constitution, we change the norms under which we live. And we construct a society based on equality, freedom, dignity, fraternity. And then we'll have true peace. There is no other way. The only other way is to have this conflict through extreme violence, as the Chinese did. We are trying to avoid that. We are trying to achieve what the Supreme Court of India called in 1980 judgment SP Gupta versus Union of India, they called the Constitution a Charter of Social Revolution. So we are attempting to have social revolution through peaceful constitutional means. The privileged classes of the country, basically the Hindu upper caste of this country, are resisting it and trying to create Muslim as a false enemy to prevent the democratization of Hindu society on the basis of equality and freedom and fraternity and dignity, as the Constitution demands. That's why Article 25 includes a provision of reform of Hindu in the Hindu religion. So we have to reform because this is a crisis that we are facing. We have to democratize our society. And Ambedkar has said that in his Annihilation of Caste. He's got an agenda for social change. And one of the points of the agenda is to recast the basis, the theological basis of Hinduism on principles of equality and freedom as religious principles. That's what Narayana Guru has done in Kerala. Certainly for the Irava community, he has recast Hinduism as being based as a matter of religion, not just a matter of political science or philosophy, as a matter of religion, on the knowledge and awareness that all human beings are of one species, that we are not differentiated by caste or religion or belief in God. So he has reorganized and created perhaps the only Hindu community in India that theologically, not politically, believes as a matter of theology that our religion as Hindus is based on equality and freedom of human beings. The Iravas are the only community where, as a matter of theology, we have rejected the Vedic Aryan ideas of Hinduism and we've created a Hindu idea, theological idea, that God has made us equal. God has made us equal. Like the Muslims and the Christians believe. And therefore you find that internally within the Irava community, there's a lot of peace. And Narayana Guru went through a lot of struggle to convince the Irava community that we have to change our theological belief about how God created us. We do not believe that God created us in four varnas, like a Maruti car, Maruti 800, and then Baleno, and then something else. We believe that God made us equal. And that there is only one concept of God, that there are no multiple gods. And that's why Narayana Guru was not against conversion. He said if people want to approach God in any way through being Muslim, Christian, Hindu, whatever, let them do it. That's up to them. He believed in liberty. So yes, so what we have to do is to find the right path to peace in a peaceful way, non-violent way. And we have examples of that. So we must deeply reflect on peace. Yeah. Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you for all your interventions. You've been very helpful.
So that was an excellent lecture and you answered almost all our questions and the interactive session was very informative also. So thank you, sir, for sparing your precious time for us and talking to us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you, LJRF team, for coordinating this session. So this officially marks the end of our 30 days internship. So we have a clear idea of what the change we can bring as future lawyers. And thank you, sir, for that. So with that, let us end this session today. Thank you and have a great night, everyone.
Thank you very much. I just want to say as a concluding message that I hope all of you will go and use your skills and knowledge to bring about a change in the norms that we believe in as a people. That is what we mean by social change, and that those norms must be the norms in the Constitution, namely equality, freedom, liberty, and fraternity, and we must constantly fight for that. And the two messages I've said is that, as I said at the beginning, that social, the skill that when I've described what social change is, but there's a skill that we want is really ultimately to be able to understand clearly that our job is to promote the welfare of the people and understand the welfare of the people in terms of the constitutional values. And lastly, to use our persuasive skills, our reasoning skills, our argumentative skills to ensure that all lawyers are always, wherever they function, a force for the good and the just as defined in constitutional values. So thank you very much again for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night, sir.
Good night.